before we jump into this NXT Week 2 on the USA Network review, my boys, I just want to say NXT production is such a refreshing thing to see. NXT camera angles are so beautiful. The cuts are amazing. I'm so glad NXT didn't adopt the whole camera shaking thing that they do on Raw and SmackDown. I just want to get that out there before we jump into this. Because, man, this 1 hour of NXT on the USA Network, and yes, it's going to go to 2 hours starting next week, the same day AEW Dynamite debuts, but we'll get into that in a bit. But NXT, that 1 hour on USA, I gotta admit it, I was actually a bigger fan of this hour compared to last week's 1 hour. What an amazing, absolutely amazing show. Again, production for these NXT shows have been spot on from the get-go, and I have just absolutely loved them. We start off with this amazing moment with the Undisputed Era. They're on this little ceiling thing on right on top of the announce table. It's a nice touch. It's a nice little appearance there for the announce table right there. You have the Undisputed Era come out, dripping in gold, holding all their title belts up, looking absolutely as epic as you could see them. That's how you start off an NXT show, with the champions of the brand, NXT. They just look absolutely fantastic to start this. I mean, this show, from the get-go, was off and running. You go in with Keith Lee versus Dominic. You know what? I can't say his last name. Kenny Omega, please take this for me.
Donovan Dickhead, right?
These guys, they've had a history together, and they have great chemistry together. They faced each other in the Indies. They faced each other, at least, I believe, I want to say 2 times, but I think they've already faced each other 3 separate times, maybe 2 times. I think it may be 2 or 3, but they have faced each other before on the NXT brand. And Keith Lee, by the way, I've been a huge fan of Keith Lee for a very long time. That guy he was one of the best independent wrestlers in the game. That dude, for his size and the build he has, the things that he is able to do are just absolutely freaking remarkable. It's unbelievable what Keith Lee is able to do. He's athletic as hell. That dude is a beast of a man. And him and Dominic Djokovic, I just butchered that, but that dude has a hard last name to pronounce. Those double D's, my boys, they're hard to get to. But these two just have great chemistry. Absolutely fantastic chemistry. They work well together. They just know each other's spots. They know exactly what they want to do in the matches. And, you know, we've already seen them this time. I believe this is the 3rd time seeing them on the NXT brand. I think they faced each other twice already beforehand. And just from the get-go, you can tell these guys are magic together. Wish we could see them do this forever. He's Dominic Djokovic, if I butchered that again, I apologize, is the Joker to Keith Lee's Batman. And it is just such a fantastic pairing between these two, because the chemistry is so spot on. And right off the bat, you can see why NXT is so much different, and in my opinion, so much better than the main roster. The difference with NXT and the main roster is the fact that NXT is so hard-hitting. They're right at you. You blink, you'll miss it. They're just back and forth action. There really isn't a moment where you can take a break or just pause to really relish it all in, because they are just going at such a faster speed, but it feels like it's so much cleaner than what you get with the main product. There's not a moment in these matches when it comes to the NXT brand where you kind of feel any sort of boredom whatsoever, and Keith Lee is the example of what is NXT. This dude can just do so many things that you don't expect somebody from that size of Keith Lee is able to do, but him and Dominic just have this great chemistry, and they're able to do these insane moves. And Dominic's a tall dude, like amazingly tall. I think Keith Lee is only 6'2". They did have a tell of the tapes, which I enjoy. That's a little thing I like when WWE or pro wrestling shows do this, when they have the tell of the tapes. It's very MMA, UFC style. There's actually a UFC mention during the show. We'll get to that right now after I talk about Keith Lee and Dominic Djokovic's amazing match between the two of them. Just the match itself was just so well done, and the storytelling between these two, you could just tell it's a bitter rivalry. And Lee and Dominic are just going back and forth. I mean, just absolutely hard-hitting stuff. And again, this is what separates the NXT brand from all the rest. They're just so out there, and they're just hard punches, hard hits, the beautiful knees, the somersaults, just everything that they're able to do. The moonsault, from Keith Lee dropping a moonsault, like that is absolutely insane. No man of that size, and your boy's thick too, so I'm part of that thick club with Keith Lee, my boys. But that man is huge, and he's able to do these things that are just absolutely insane to see anybody of that size, of that structure, to do. And it was just such back and forth action. And again, I love how the first 2 weeks of NXT on USA Network have really established what NXT is really all about. Last week we started with the Fatal 4-Way with the women, and it was absolutely fantastic, and we all absolutely loved it. And it was the brand of NXT, that Fatal 4-Way. There was a bunch of moments, a bunch of different spots here and there that really showed you what NXT is. And then the following week you get Keith Lee versus Dominic, which again, back and forth action. Like Triple H said last week, and I said this last week as well, he said, do not blink. If you blink, you're going to miss some iconic moments. Keith Lee picks up the win. I think they're tied 1-1 on the scoreboard, according to the NXT announce team, who was, again, absolutely fantastic. The NXT announce team is just on top of their game. I love their announce team. It is perfect. I can't wait to see what they do moving forward. I'm so happy Mamma Mia is back on live TV. I don't want to butcher his name. That's why I'm not going to try and say that. I'm terrible with names, my boys. So I'm not going to get into all that. But the announce team was perfect tonight. I love that announce team. I saw some people on Twitter last week talk about how the announce team was a little bit too overhyped and they should settle down. No, man. That announce team is perfect, and I think they should just be as wild as they are, and they work so well together. Usually, I'm not a fan of 3 people at the announce team. I'm usually a fan of just having 2 people there, and that's it. But for whatever reason, the 3 of them work fantastic together, and they were great tonight in that first hour of NXT on USA. Again, they're doing this 1-hour episode. This is it. Moving forward, after tonight, they're 2 hours live on the USA Network. Moving forward, starting next Wednesday. So Keith Lee picks up the win in a hard-hitting, great match. The crowd was eating it up. They loved every second of it. They were all in on this match. This match had so many spots, so many moments that were just absolutely insane. Again, you don't expect anybody. Dominic as well. I believe he might be 6'7". I forget to tell the tapes, but you guys are watching it with me right now. That guy, for the moves that he does as well, and he's a fantastic wrestler. The reason I brought up that Kenny Omega quick, it wasn't to disrespect that man. It's just to bring up him and Kenny had that little back and forth with Kenny Omega talking about like if NXT was in the same, and if the NXT roster was on the same roster as Kenny Omega, the roster would be in the mid-card and Kenny would be in the main event. And a lot of people got triggered over that. Dominic decided to tweet Kenny talking about, remember at Bola, Battle of Los Angeles, when you were the main event and me and Keith Lee stole the show. Again, Dominic and Keith Lee just have this fantastic chemistry, and honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing them forever, but I also want to see Keith Lee do more things instead of just wrestling Dominic. Even though those matches are fantastic and Keith Lee did pick up the W, I hope they're pushing to something better, because I would love to see like Keith Lee in the North American title picture, or even in the NXT title picture against Adam Cole, or maybe we get a new champion next week. We'll get to that in a bit. So that, just right off the bat, you start off with another banger of a match for NXT on USA Network. Just another absolute banger that is the absolute definition of what NXT is all about. So just right off the bat, you start off with that amazing shot of the Undisputed Era holding the title belts that, by the way, it reminded me of when Evolution, remember when Evolution had all the title belts, when Hunter was World Heavyweight, the Nature Boy and Batista were tag champions, and Randy Orton was the Intercontinental Champion? That moment with Undisputed Era on that panel, holding up the belts, was so reminiscent of that. And that's another reason why I love NXT, because I love how they're establishing these strong stables. That's something I have missed just so dearly. I miss the strong stables. I miss the Evolutions, the DX, the NWOs. I feel now we're reached the point where it's like a fascination with having 3 people in the group, like New Day. New Day has been fantastic, but I don't know if I would call them a stable more than a trio of guys. I feel like a stable would have to be more than 3. But I miss the strong stables, and what NXT is doing with Emporium, by the way, with Walter and his guys there now, that's going to be absolutely epic. I mean, can you imagine the War Games with the Undisputed Era and Emporium? That would be absolutely, and Walter just is a beast, my dude. My God, if we ever get a Keith Lee versus Walter match, my mind is going to absolutely explode. By the way, again, if I'm doing terrible with the names, I apologize. I'm just bad with names, my boys. Then we go to Dakota Kai, her return. We haven't seen her since her match, since her injury when she fought Baszler in that match months and months ago. It was good to see her back. It was a very quick match. I will say the crowd wasn't that into that match. It was kind of like, not sloppy, but very slow-mo, but very like trying to get to the point and wrap it up. It was fantastic to see her back though, because look, a lot of people miss her. I think she's going to be a very important, integral role in the women's division NXT. Especially, I could see her at some point facing off against Baszler again, because there is that history there. She had that great match. You had she fought Tanera, who there was also that Brazilian background. They mentioned Amanda Nunes, who was the UFC's greatest women fighter of all time. They mentioned Cyborg. I thought that was a cool little name drop there. That little UFC mention. But Dakota Kai looked fantastic. I will say the match again wasn't sloppy. I felt like they were trying to be fast and hard hitting, but it wasn't looking good on the television. Like, it wasn't looking good what they were trying to do, because the match was very quick. It felt like a squash match, but it really wasn't at the same time, because it let Tanera get some hits in. Dakota Kai picks up the W. Obviously, you're returning her. You're trying to build her back up. I'm excited to see what she does later on in the future. I mean, that women's division for NXT is looking very, very stacked as the days go on. And I'm very excited to see next week when Candice LeRae challenges Baszler for her NXT Women's title. We're going to talk about that in a bit after we get through these. Again, I'm only doing a review for the first hour of NXT. I don't have the network because there's already too many. I have too many streaming services. I'm saving my money for Disney Plus, so I don't have the network. But I just want to focus on the stuff that they show in the first hour of NXT on the USA Network. So Dakota Kai is back, and she looked absolutely fantastic. Just looked fresh, looked good. I think the match could have been better executed to the point where the tempo of the match was off, in my opinion. Just the tempo was off. The match itself was good. There was back and forth action, but it was a very quick match, which I felt the match itself probably was supposed to go a little bit faster than it actually was. There was a lot of pause, and I don't think the crowd, maybe because the crowd was just so taken aback from that Keith Lee Dominic match. I mean, Dominic freaking hit a beautiful power driver off the freaking top rope. These guys it's like Godzilla versus like a monster. It's like the last Godzilla movie. That's how pretty much that Keith Lee Dominic Dijakovic match was. Again, I just butchered his last name, but you know what, my boy, your name is hard to pronounce. So I mean, Kenny, what's his name again?
Donovan Dickhead, right?
The main event of the first hour of NXT on USA. Matt Riddle versus Killian Dane. These two have just been kicking each other's asses for the last couple of weeks. But this match is a street fight with the #1 contendership on the line. Winner faces Adam Cole next week for the NXT title. I'm assuming that's going to be the main event for next week's show. And these two, again, they just destroyed each other. Matt Riddle, man, this dude, I like to say he's the taller version of Rob Van Dam. He just does some stuff, man, that are absolutely insane. I loved him since he was in the UFC. It's a shame the UFC let him go for those marijuana testing stuff, which is baloney. He's just fantastic. He had this awesome moment where he throws the chair, very Rob Van Dam-esque. He throws his chair to Killian and just slaps a knee in, and it was just perfectly timed. You had a beautiful crossbody by Killian Dane that both of them went through a wall, and it was just, these two are just destroying each other in this whole entire match. And then Matt Riddle picks up the win via submission, which should be Matt Riddle's game, is the submission. He is a submission specialist, which is why I would love to see a Roderick Strong Matt Riddle match somewhere down the line, and which is why Matt Riddle definitely wants to be the one to retire Brock Lesnar, which I'm all for. Talk about MMA background between the two of those guys. That would be a fantastic match. But Matt Riddle gets the tap out win. You get Adam Cole out there. He puts him in a freaking submission hold. Undisputed Era comes out, and then NXT on USA's first hour ends with another absolute banger. I mean, last week ended with Roderick Strong winning the North American title for Velveteen Dream. This week ends with Riddle becoming the new #1 contender for the NXT title. And my boys, they are just setting up next week's show as pretty much a takeover, a 2-hour takeover. There's going to be 3 title matches next week, my boys. You got the women's title match between Candice LeRae and Baszler. You got the tag team titles rematch, which is going to be absolutely awesome. I mean, the Street Profits versus Undisputed Era, they were great the last takeover, so I can't wait to see them next week. And then you got Riddle versus Cole, which I will say, this is not a spoiler, I'm not saying that. I'm pretty sure Killian Dane is going to have something to say during that match. I don't think this rivalry between Riddle and Dane is over anytime soon, but it's awesome to see that Matt Riddle is going to get that pretty much title opportunity on really the first real NXT on USA, because this one is going to be 2 hours long, limited commercials, which means it's going to drag a little bit. Not drag in a bad way. I mean, I'm saying these matches are going to have enough time to do what they want to do with very limited commercials, which in my opinion is a great thing, because one of my things that I hate about Raw and SmackDown is the amount of commercials we get, especially on the USA Network. With Raw being 3 hours, we get so many commercials, which makes the show, unfortunately, drag in a bad way. But NXT next week's going to drag in a good way, because they announced limited commercials, which in my opinion is a great thing for that show. You have a stacked card, you have 3 title matches, and you're booking it pretty much as an NXT takeover. Next week's going to be litty, my boys. It's going to be very hard to do it, but next week, AEW Dynamite, and I know a lot of people in the UK are very upset with AEW, the distribution of the show, if it's going to be live. I believe they have to pay $4.99 to watch it live, or wait to watch it on Sunday, which is ridiculous. I don't know why AEW didn't have this whole UK deal figured out or announced something before that, but I'm sure AEW is a new show. They're going to have some missteps. They're going to stumble upon themselves here and there. Give them time, but I will say, the fight thing is better, but it's very messy. I can understand why some UK fans are very frustrated, especially since Cody. It's basically because Cody pretty much said that the AEW UK TV deal was going to be so much better than WWE's UK deal, and then today it comes out that it kind of really isn't, honestly. And I can understand some people's displeasures, but back to AEW Dynamite. By the way, they did name the show Dynamite. There was news today, actually, that the original idea was to call AEW Revolution. That was from Cody. I think I would have preferred AEW Revolution over AEW Dynamite. That's just my opinion. I think that would have been a better name for the show, just because the show, I feel like Dynamite is too much like Nitro, and I feel like that's a TNT thing, to be like revisiting history, and we're going to call this, instead of Nitro when we had WCW, we're going to call AEW Dynamite. You know what I mean? I think I would have preferred AEW Revolution. You can let me know down below, would you would have rather preferred Dynamite or Revolution. In my opinion, I think I would have preferred Revolution in hindsight. But next week, you got the debut show of AEW Dynamite, which you got Cody versus Sammy. You got Hangman versus Pac. There's going to be other matches. I think they're having those first round matches for the tag team titles, for the AEW tag team titles. And you're putting that, a 2-hour show that starts at 5 p.m. versus a 2-hour show of NXT on USA that also starts at 5 p.m. that has limited commercials and 3 title matches that are already established. It's going to be close to impossible to change it back and forth, because there's going to be something that happens when you have 3 title matches. It's just hard to turn away from that. I kind of feel like I'm going to need like 2 screens to watch both shows, because this is going to be ridiculous, pretty much, my boys. Like, limited commercials for NXT next week is going to be insane. And I said this on Twitter, by the way. Follow your boy on Twitter. Do that. I tweet a lot, so go ahead and do that. It's going to be difficult because they're just like, they're booking it as a takeover. And again, like I talked about, NXT production has just been so refreshing to watch on a live network, because I'm so glad Triple H has done such a fantastic job production-wise. I don't understand how Hunter and Sean are able to figure out how to do production in such a clean way without the camera shaking, the cut angles, and the main roster can't figure that out. But next week is going to be an absolutely insane week for pro wrestling. There's rumors of a new Monday Night Raw stage being presented next week, and there is a brand new Raw logo. Then you got Impact moving to Tuesdays. I don't know if that's happening next week, but eventually Tuesday nights are going to be exclusive to Access TV and Impact. Then Wednesday nights are NXT versus AEW. And then Friday Night SmackDown on the Fox network. Apparently they're going to get a brand new stage as well. I pray it is the Fist. By the way, if you're wondering why I didn't do his top 10 SmackDown Live reaction, like moments reaction, I did. And as soon as I uploaded it, your boy got another email and they took the video down. Just fine. Look, I'm going to still do them, and every time they take one down, I'll just delete it. The ones they don't take down, they're already up. Again, I make no money off of those videos, so it's kind of hard to continue doing them, but I'm going to continue doing them because you guys enjoy them and you guys love them, and I'm trying to give you guys more wrestling content, more podcasts, more stuff like that, just because reaction videos kind of getting a little bit burnt out, but not as much. I'm still doing them, but mostly hinted more towards wrestling moving forward. We'll talk about that tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow is the debut of the podcast, Hollywood Uncensored, episode number 1, numero uno. I'm going to upload that tomorrow. Every Thursday moving forward, you're going to get a brand new episode of my brand new podcast, Hollywood Uncensored, which I'm going to be talking about wrestling, sports, and movies. Just more stuff, more, more venting, more talking without just relying on a reaction video that you want to, because reaction videos you have to react to and just upload. We'll talk about that tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to rant a lot. It's probably going to be like a 30-minute to hour per episode. You guys will check that out. I hope you guys tune in. I just want to add more content to the channel. But anyways, this was a great NXT USA episode. I honestly enjoyed it more than last week's episode because it just had more stuff going on. The matches, I enjoyed the matches that we got compared to last week. I thought this week was just cleaner. It was the announce team was better, production was better, the matches were even better. I truthfully enjoyed this week. And next week's the big one, man. It's the Wednesday Night Wars. It's NXT versus AEW. The wars start next week, and you're probably wondering how I'm going to do it. Well, I'm going to try to review both. I'm going to try to give you my opinion about both shows from the stuff that I'm able to watch. And then at the end of each show, I'm going to announce a winner. I'm going to announce who won that week. And we're going to have a tally every single week. If it's 1-0 NXT, then next week AEW can tie it. And moving forward, we're going to have a tally score. And we're going to see who wins every single week, at least my opinion. I'm going to let you guys voice your opinions in the comment section so I can find out what you guys are thinking moving forward. My boys, this is the second NXT review. It's the final only NXT review because next week, the Wednesday Night Wars begin. I hope you come back. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, slap that thumb, subscribe, join the Hollywood Quick. Links are down below in the description. Comment down below what did you think of today's NXT show, and I would love to know. What are you planning to watch next week the most? NXT or AEW? Remember, NXT next week's a takeover. Limited commercials, 2 hours, 3 title matches. AEW Dynamite, 2 hours. Cody versus Sammy, Hangman versus Pac, John Moxley. It's going to be insane. Comment down below. The Wednesday Night Wars are upon us. And in my opinion, the golden age of wrestling starts next week. I will see you guys later on. You guys enjoy your night. Too so.